Hi team, Phil here with Phil Shomo Coaching. I've really been enjoying this series of interviews that I'm doing called Voice of the Small College Coach. And if you've been enjoying any of these, I would love it if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be really helpful to me. I just believe in this concept of forever learning, and one of the greatest resources for learning that I've found is in the small college coaching world. People who don't make a lot of money, don't make a lot of notoriety, don't get a lot of acclaim, but are dedicated day in and day out to shaping the lives of young people through sports and athletics. And I get to spend a lot of time around small college coaches. I am always learning from them, and one of my favorite small college coaches is CHAD SIMPSON. CHAD is a tennis coach at Point University in West Point, Georgia, coaches both the men's and the women's tennis teams. CHAD grew up as a decorated tennis player and from coming out of Danville, Illinois, won lots of awards, played college tennis at Division I Liberty, and when he left there, he broke their record for victories for singles and doubles. And just after a very successful career, got into coaching. Chad's been at Point now for the last 7 years, and he has built a top 10 program, ranked even in the top 5 nationally. They've just done an amazing job. He actually is in an NAIA school, even plays some Division I opponents. I had the privilege of being at a match where Chad's team played against Auburn University, and just amazing competition. But Chad is so devoted to the development of young people as human beings, as spiritual beings, as young men and women who have a lot of life ahead of them, that it is just an honor to learn from him. I know you're going to love this interview. I can't wait for us all to just glean the gold nuggets from my friend CHAD SIMPSON. Let's listen. All right, welcome team. Once again, it is a joy and a privilege in my hunger to just be forever learning to welcome my good friend CHAD SIMPSON. As I've mentioned already, CHAD is a head tennis coach at Point University in West Point, Georgia. Coaches both the men's and the women's teams. And CHAD, it is an awesome privilege to get to chat with you today, man. Thanks for doing this for me.
Phil, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
This is awesome. I've known CHAD for quite a while, and we just have a very special relationship, and always enjoy the privilege of talking to you. So, in this format, this will be really fun for me, because I know you've always got wisdom for me that helps me in my engagement with young people. And so I'm interested in picking your brain a little bit today on that space. So you've been in the coaching game for quite a while. You had obviously a very successful playing career, very decorated in many ways, and hugely successful in college. And then you've gotten into, college head coaching. You also do instructional coaching with athletes and stuff on the side. But I want to talk a little bit about your experiences just really in the college coaching world. What's something you love about coaching that now that you've got several years under your belt, maybe it's a little bit different for you than what you thought it would be before you ever got involved, but you really love it?
I'd say the ongoing relationships that I get to have with my players. It's been a little bit of a
Mm,
surprise. I came down to Point with the intention of building a program based off of love and
mm,
relationships, and so that was definitely a goal. But the surprise was seeing them go off and graduate, start families, advance in their careers, and for me to be able to be a part of some of their those conversations and phone calls and seeing it on social media. I think that's been a joy. But definitely, we came down to build a program based off of love and not fear. And we believe that
mm.
perfect love casts out fear. And so, yeah, definitely was surprised to keep journeying with them into adulthood.
Do you, obviously I love the language, build a program based on love. And I don't think in athletics in almost any level, we actually think in that language or in that framing very often. So when you think in terms of, an objective of building a program based on love in athletics, like how do you feel that, is that understood at all? Is that misunderstood? Do you ever use that language with people and get like weird looks? Like where does that go for you?
I don't think so. I think the players that we have are buying into it. I think they want to be a part of a team that loves each other. And, for our program, we believe that the team that loves each other more is going to fight for each other harder and fight longer on the court.
Mm.
And so, yeah, definitely been a goal to center on relationships and caring for each other deeply. And, it's not, when you talk about love, it's not just, soft or always being kind, but there's
Yeah.
tough love. You have to hold accountable, and if you truly love somebody, you're going to speak the truth and love
Mm.
at times. But yeah, that's definitely been the goal, and I haven't been perfect in it. I'll admit that I have so much to learn and so much to grow in the relationship
Oh
building
yeah.
and truly caring for individuals. But that's what we're working towards.
Wow, don't we all, man? That is, Chad, what a fantastic perspective. I love that so much. So, speaking of things that you really love about coaching, what is something about building into the lives of young athletes that you feel like you've learned during your years of coaching that maybe even more recently it's just maybe you feel like you've gotten a little bit better at it, or it's just become more and more of a priority when it comes to really influencing them?
I'd say the one-on-one time with the players. I think that's been quite important for me to connect with the players. Is scheduling out, individual meetings, whether we're
Mm.
talking about tennis goals or if we're talking about spirituality and growth in that area. But and then something else is just the random times. I'm intentional with the bus rides and who sits shotgun with me. I try to remember to pray about, where do I sit at dinner and who's going to sit beside me. And but yeah, I think that's definitely something that I didn't realize at first how important it was, whether it's one-on-one time on the court or getting off the court with them to just dig deeper into that relationship, giving them time.
Mm, so good. I think even you and I use the language occasionally when we're talking about building that relational equity, like you're investing in their tanks in such a way that you've got some resources built up in there. You mentioned earlier how important it is when you really love people. There's accountability, and even as a coach, there's accountability both in the sport, but for them as people, and that equity that you've poured into them is, maybe those are some of the times you got to withdraw on that a little bit. Do you ever hesitate on the side of, really pushing into tough conversations with your players if you feel like you haven't built that relational side? Like, do you ever feel a conflict in those two things?
It's a great question. I mean, always wrestle, and I try not to be afraid of the fierce conversations that need to be had,
Mm.
but trying to have wisdom on knowing, when do you speak up and let them know that they fell short of a standard, and when to, give grace, let it go.
Mm.
Yeah,
I
definitely
love that.
haven't perfected that balance, but super important.
I'm writing down fierce conversations, man. That's language I gotta hold on to. I don't think I've heard you say that one before. You lean into those fierce conversations, man. That is really really good. Um, when you think about the emotional, mental side of tennis of your game, what's one area that you look at maybe differently as a coach in that side of the sport as opposed to when you were a player? What does the coaching perspective give you when you think about the emotional, mental skills that are required for these college tennis players to succeed on the court?
Now as a coach, I see it as the coach's responsibility to create that environment for the players to grasp it. I think as a player, I really felt that player has it, they're clutch, and that player doesn't, they choke. And now I'm seeing, after 6 years of leading this college program, and the environment that I create can really spur them on in that direction towards mental toughness and just a few things that I do here at Point. Number one would be our schedule. Just trying to create battles. In 2018, we had a new crew come into our team, and that year we only had like 2 battles where it went down to the final match. I think we lost both, but that we were a young team. It was good. But at the end of the season, we got ready to go to the conference tournament. And in my mind as a coach, on how did I prepare them? I was like, we didn't have that many tough battles to prepare them for the biggest battle, and the next year, 2019, we had a phenomenal run there, and we probably had 11 battles, as I would call it, that season.
Wow.
And early, we lost to Troy 4-3, lost a Division I Alabama State 5-2, and we took some bumps early, but we got tougher. We went on a crazy win streak, won 7 straight big matches and clutch performances, and it's just a joy as a coach to see your players come through in those big moments. But yeah, the schedule is something we do. So, number 2, the physical fitness. I feel preparedness breeds confidence. So if we're physically strong, it's going to give us confidence to go out and perform longer than the other guy. And then the last thing I'll share, just the third thing, would be just kind of uncomfortable practices, where so many of our players are so proficient. They can do practice in their sleep. They can hit the ball. They can go 50 times in a row up the middle and not think. And so I really try hard to get them uncomfortable, mix up rules, mix up situations, and get them a little frustrated. Like, coach, why are you doing this? And it's at least making them think and engage their brains. And then I see they're growing at practice. So yeah, the goal is during the practice, if we can toughen them up. And then I feel those are the things that we can build within the environment to build into their mental toughness.
Man, I love that. And part of, I think, Chad, why you and I connect in this area so well and why you've been so helpful to me is because that it is such a priority to you, not just the development of their physical, technical tennis skills, but your perspective on it really is like what you just described. Like, I've got to create ways for these guys to let their skills rise when it means the most. And that's part of your job as a coach, is to create those experiences, those environments, even those uncomfortable paths. It's difficult, I think, for coaches to figure out what's the balance between the empowering my player on the comfort side and the forcing them into the discomfort side. And I know you don't shy away from that at all, especially early in your schedules. I've seen numerous years where you've played, D1 schools, and you've gone up levels, even if you're going to take bumps and bruises. Like, you keep your eye on that bigger picture. Do you find your players understand that sort of level of competition early in a season, where you're keeping your eye on the bigger picture? Like, we might, like, the score might not be great in these events, but the payoff's going to come down the road. Is it hard for college players at that age to keep themselves from getting discouraged if they're getting beat by tough opponents early in a season?
I think the players that we're recruiting are okay with that. They see the journey. For sure, if you go and play a match, you're going to fight and battle and try to win it. But then in the reflection period after and practice the next week, I think they're okay with it. They learned what they needed to improve, and they go out and try to get better for the next weekend to go play more matches. And
I love that.
For tennis in the spring, we're trying to peak in mid-April and early May for the conference tournament. So that's what we just kind of keep talking to our players about. It's all about getting better.
I love that, man. I love that. So let's go even further with that, with the college athlete. So when you think about the mental and emotional development of a college tennis player, what's something in that space that you think, in general, it's pretty rare when a freshman comes in for them to have this ability? Like, what are some of the gaps that you see in freshmen coming into college tennis when it comes to the mental and emotional part of tennis?
So many tennis players struggle with positive self-talk, and so just there's a quote that says, your walk will reveal your talk. And so from the outside, we might see somebody using negative body language, but the real problem is the voices that they're saying to themselves. And so that's you can see that. And but as a coach, I always just say walk like a champion. And we want to copy the great ones, not the whiners and the mopies. But for two reasons. Number one, it's not helping me. I need to be my biggest coach and cheerleader, trying to figure out the problem and improve. But also the message that's sending my opponent. For me, thinking back as a player, if I saw a guy across the net going negative and with the negative body language, I was just like, this guy's spiraling. Stay on him. You almost got him. That's just feeding, my confidence.
Yeah, so it's interesting, isn't it, how we tend to think of the negative self-talk as being how it affects us, but what you just pointed out is interesting. Like the opponent gains energy if they're perceptive on that space, because all of a sudden what went from we're just kind of slogging through a match becomes, this could be the breaking moment right here. Like I see them moving into that space. And I love the fact that you carried that. Do you talk about that with your players? Are you encouraging both their self-awareness, but their perception of the guy across the net?
100%. Yeah. Well, as a coach, I'm usually watching both players, where my player is maybe going to his towel or maybe his back is turned. But many times if I'm on the court with them, I'll go out and, hey, this guy is cussing, or this guy is getting on himself, and just try to feed their confidence that you almost got him, stay on him. Yeah, definitely a part of the coaching is be aware of your opponent, and that'd be huge for college tennis. There's a lot of energy. You got 6 players playing at one time, so even players beside you can play a role in your energy levels and your desire on the court. So we preach that a lot at Point, is just to stay positive in our body language, spreading, here we go, Point, let's go Skyhawks. I think that positivity can really change a match, and I've seen it. Each team we've had, we need an energy leader that he's going to kind of like Braveheart, rally the troops and get everybody pumped up.
Yeah, and I've had the privilege of being at some of your matches, and you guys, visibly from the outside watching, you guys do a great job at that team camaraderie, that building each other up. It's visible, and audible. We can hear it too if we're at those matches. Very, very cool. What do you think is like, maybe it's in this space we're in right now, or maybe it's in a different space, but what do you see as the development during the college years from players, like especially like how they think, what their emotional state is, from the time they maybe come into college tennis till the time they're done, whether maybe 4 years, maybe a different length of time than that. But what do you think is the mental and emotional opportunity to change in those maturing years when it comes to how they're performing mentally and emotionally?
It's a great question. I mean, the humble players, the ones that are looking to grow, will improve in that area, coming in as a 17, 18-year-old and to 22. Some probably stay the same and kind of carry on their normal habits, and maybe a few would get worse. But yeah, I think with teammates holding you accountable and coaches kind of pouring into you, I think it's quite normal to see the growth and the change in the body language and the self-talk and the executing your patterns, those
I
type of
love
things.
that. And are those the things that, maybe again, this might be the same answer, but are those the areas that you see as the differentiators? So obviously, for somebody as skilled in your sport and as instructional as you are, you can see the physical skills between players that might hold some differentiation. But when it comes to like the mental and emotional, what are some of the characteristics that separate the best college players?
No, I agree with that question, and I feel at the college level, most of our players, they have the skill set, they have the technique, they're phenomenal players, and so just trying to think, how can we get 1% better, each semester? It is in those smaller areas of not having that tipping point. If you're getting a little frustrated, just remaining calm. I still got this. I'm tough. Um, but yeah, the mental game is huge. Physical strength, just sticking to the fundamentals is what I like to teach. And but yeah, that'd be what we're trying to build here at Point.
I love that again, man. Thank you. So when you think back on your playing career, and again, you were very successful. What's something that you wish if you were coaching yourself, like if Chad the coach had Chad the player, what would you try to build into Chad the player quicker? Maybe you got it towards the end of your playing career, but what's something that you would have you would have dug in on faster that would have increased the amount of success that you had?
I have a few regrets over, I probably gave 95% or 98%. And, but I think just that excellence isn't an accident. And just elite athletes, they do the small things better than the rest. They're willing to get there a little earlier and stay a little longer, and doing some extra work on their own on the weekends. If, for me, thinking back, the nutrition, uh, mental rehearsal, just the daily habits and routines of stretching and a good warm up. I think that is what I've really harped on my players on a lot, is just taking care of the daily disciplines. And for example, just bringing a water bottle to practice. Just like if you're going to be an elite athlete, you pack your bag, you show up to work ready, you're on time. But that would be what I tell my 18-year-old self, is just give your all and then some. Don't just give most of you.
Wow, that's good. Don't we all wish we could have that same perspective in the present or in the future that we can have by hindsight? Like it's so clear when we look back. So maybe just one more question that I'm gonna kind of do this wrap up thing that I like to do at the end. So when you think about college players under pressure, like in the biggest moments, and part of the fun thing for you and your program, as you've built really a national top 10 program, or top five even, you've had lots of opportunities, or you create lots of opportunities for your players to be in pressure situations, big moments, big matches, even big moments within those big matches. So when you think about college players that you coach under pressure in those biggest moments, what's something that maybe a tendency, and I know each player is individualized, so it's a little hard to give hierarching big answers, but what are some tendencies from college players that you just wish they could get past, stop, get rid of? Like, what shows up in those moments that you would love to just be able to take an eraser in a race right out of their life, or their tendencies?
I'd say, he who changes loses. And I think just sticking to what got you there, rather than switching things up in a pressure
Oh,
situation.
wow.
So
Okay.
if my go-to play is my kick serve wide and serve and volley, or for example, then in a pressure point, I want to use what got me there. I want to use what my best tactic is. And so I think just stick to your patterns. Obviously, planning your point is huge, and battling pressure or fear of failure. So if I have a plan, and then just going for it, trusting my instincts, and going for it. But yeah, he who changes loses. And I feel, trying a crazy drop shot, and the worst situations, I feel like they buckle under pressure if you want to do something different or out of the ordinary.
I love that. So let's just push into that just a little bit more. So take us into the mind of a college tennis player that takes the opposite path from that. Like, what is going on in them in those moments that causes them to give up on the thing that they do best, or to shift into trying to make something different happen than what they're actually tactically good at doing?
I don't know. There'd be a lot of psychology into that, but probably some fear. Thinking through, in a pressure situation, you're just not thinking quite as clear. But if you can think clearly, For example, Nadal versus Federer. If Nadal's playing Federer, it's got to be Nadal's lefty forehand to Federer's one-handed high backhand. And so I've heard Nadal share those quotes on keep doing the same thing, keep doing the same thing, keep doing the same thing. Don't divert from the plan. And for some reason, we just want to be a little different, a little crazy from time to time. But if you're doing something that works 55% of the time in tennis, that'll win you matches. So just keep
Wow.
doing what's working.
What a great perspective, man. I love that. I love that. Yeah. It's a deep question. There is probably a lot going on behind that, isn't it? Because a lot of us, I think, maybe it is the fear, maybe it's we jump too quickly into desperation mode instead of that trusting what we've really worked on or the part of our craft we've honed. Maybe we go too fast into, well, this isn't working. I got to try something else. When, from a coach's perspective, it's the 45% that's not working is normal. Like, don't
Yeah,
make that 45% an 80 or 90%, right?
sure.
So let me thank you so much, man, for those answers. That's just awesome. Let me dive into what I love doing with the end of each person that I interview. I call it the back nine. In the golf world, the Masters doesn't begin till the back nine on Sunday, they always say. So I don't know what the equivalent would be in tennis. This would be a final tiebreaker in the last set or something. So these are just 9 questions, kind of a rapid response kind of thing. I gave you no setup for this. You don't know what these are. This is first thing that comes to mind. So I'll ask you 9 and let's just get to know Chad Simpson just a little bit better. So first question, favorite place you've ever visited?
Man, Grand Canyon.
Really? Good answer. When was that? When?
At 13 or 14, I'd love to go back.
Good answer. Number 2, all-time favorite tennis player?
Say Michael Chang.
Ooh, I do remember Michael Chang back in the day. What'd you love about Michael Chang?
He's a fighter. He's a grinder. He's short, not the most talented. He has devout faith, which I respect, and yeah, he maximized his talents and abilities for sure.
Man, you surprised me with that one. I love it. Number 3, dream job if you weren't a tennis coach.
Man,
Anything.
yeah, you stumped me. Um, there'd be a lot of things that'd be fun to do. It'd be fun to be an athletic director, helping coaches. It'd be fun to be a missionary, go to a third world country and just serve.
I'll take it. Those are good. All right. Funnest thing you get to do with your kids.
We uh, we call it WrestleMania. We'll just wrestle around with my son's 5 and my daughter's 3, and we said we'll take them up to the top ropes. I'll take them up to the ceiling and drop them on the bed. Just love to play with them.
That's awesome, man. Number 5, are you an aisle or a window seat guy on a plane?
Window.
He's a window guy. Deep psychological analyzation going on right now, man. All right, just kidding. Number 6, when you were competing in tennis, what did you do to get yourself pumped up before a big match?
Man, I don't think I needed to do anything. Just the match itself would pump me up. But when I was a player, big point, I'd hit my chest. That was kind of my.
Okay.
I got super pumped.
I love it. That's awesome. Number 7, what kind of food would you cook if you were fixing dinner for your wife for something special?
Probably we've been trying to eat pretty healthy, so probably fry up some vegetables, some rice, and have something pretty tasty.
Nice. Do you cook a good bit or no?
I enjoy it. Yep.
I love that. All right. Number 8, if you could merge one trait from 2 different tennis players to create the greatest of all time, could be a physic, could be backhand, forehand, could be a different characteristic. What 2 traits would you pick, and who would they come from?
I think I'd take Federer's just beauty on the court, the way he glides and the way he moves, with Sampras's serve and power.
Wow, that'd be unstoppable, wouldn't it? All right, number 9. If a player on your team were going to say a word or a phrase that everybody on the team would know they were imitating Coach Simpson, what would be a word or a phrase they would use?
Probably logistics. So we'll be talking tennis and talk tennis strategy, blah blah blah, and then all right, and for the logistics, talking about the hotels and the times of travel. But they kind of laugh at me whenever I just drop the word logistics on them.
Logistics. I love it. Chad, this is awesome, man. Thank you so much. You are a wealth of wisdom. I am forever learning whenever we get to talk, and it is both an honor to be your friend, and it's an honor to have this chat with you today. Thank you, bud.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate so much what you're doing. Super excited for your Phil Shomo coaching, and I just wanted to publicly say thank you for just teaching me how to be a better man.
Thank you, buddy. We'll talk soon, man. Thanks. Bye bye.
See you, Phil.